The soaring sacred roots of Black gospel music are the focus of a 4-hour docu-series that premiered on PBS on February 12th and 13th. And in an effort to continue the conversation, WJCT Public Media hosts an event next Tuesday exploring the impact of gospel music in Jacksonville. I'm joined now by three-time Grammy-winning jazz drummer and Jacksonville native Ulysses Owens Jr. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Freddie Rhodes, program director at Victory Gospel Radio, AM 1360, and longtime studio manager at Channel 4, our news partner.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And Cersei Noble, WJCT's Grants and Education Outreach Manager. Hey, Cersei.
Good morning.
So this evening that is planned, it's going to be hosted by ethnomusicologist Dr. Fredera Hadley, who was featured in the gospel program, which, if you haven't seen it, is just incredible. It includes local experts, pastors, musicians. Ulysses, you began playing drums at the age of 3?
2, actually.
2. Early starter. And then you landed a full scholarship to the Juilliard School's inaugural jazz program.
Yeah, in New York City when I was 18, and now I'm actually a small ensemble director at Juilliard. So I literally commute back and forth. But my beginnings were in church, and that's why it's so important to me to be part of this event.
Talk about the role of music in the church that you attended and the role of music in your own young life.
Absolutely. So for me, I look at music in the church. Actually, I teach a class with Fredera Hadley at Juilliard, and we refer to the Black church as the conservatory. And we feel that it is the birthplace of talent. So I grew up, my mom is a choir director. My father was the sound guy. And so I got exposed to music, and then through my cousins who played. And so it was like second nature. And so through that, I kept developing, I kept playing. I was the drummer for the choir by age 5. So you build that commitment and that level of just being consistent. And then, 16, I fell in love with jazz music. 18, I met Wynton Marsalis and then moved to New York City. But I always tell people I would not be any of who I am and who I'm becoming without the power of the Black Conservatory, a.k.a. the Black Church.
And for people who maybe didn't grow up in the Black church and don't have a strong background in what gospel is and its roots and its power, how do you describe it to them?
To me, gospel music is the perfect blend between the sacred text. So you have hymnody, you have worship songs, but then you have sort of the religion, the Bible, the scriptures, all of that through song. And then obviously, I came from the Pentecostal church, which is also called the charismatic church. And so then you have the spirit, the dance. And so to me, it's the complete experience of all of the things that we love about music. And then you put that into the church, and then you have that Black experience. And then you couple that with the South, and you're talking about a celebratory, incredible time. So, and one of the things I talk about in the course is that music has inspired all music. So when you hear Aretha Franklin, you understand why Whitney Houston exists, or you think about Rihanna or Drake, or all these other popular musics could not exist had it not been for Mighty Clouds of Joy or for all, Joe Logano, whoever. So I think we have to understand the roots of this music is the Black church, which again goes back to slavery and Congo Square. So it's the perfect line, the lineage of the music. So yeah, that's that. I'm very passionate about that.
We're talking about the role of gospel music in Jacksonville and in music overall,
Yes.
and you are welcome to join the conversation by giving us a call at 904-549-2937, or you can email First Coast Connect at wjct.org. Freddie Rhodes, you spent a lifetime in broadcast television, but your passion is gospel music.
Yes.
Talk about how you got into gospel radio and why that is something that continues to inspire you.
Well, I was raised up in the church, and and the music has inspired me down through the years. I go way back. We was talking earlier in a conversation about, quartets, the choirs, and the male and female soloists. Have, all those have really, and the music just have impacted me down through the years. So broadcasting has always been something I wanted to do in my early career, was radio and television. So things worked out perfectly. I was able to do both of them for about the same length of time. Over 54 years, I've been doing radio here in the city of Jacksonville, gospel radio. I started out doing R&B, but gospel radio was my passion, because that was my life, gospel. So it has really been a great ride all these years. and still doing it.
Yeah, and you have an incredible radio voice.
Well, thank
Yes.
you.
Are you also a singer?
Someone asked me that earlier. I said, no, you don't want to hear me sing. Because I listened to myself last night singing. I said, oh, no. I better stick with what I do, Somebody said, stay in your lane, so hey.
And what is the audience like for gospel radio here in Jacksonville? Is that a big audience of people that rely on you all through the week?
The audience is great. What we do at our particular station, we try to play a better variety, because we want to reach all ages. You got some of the new artists like your Ty Tribbett's, you got your Kirk Franklin's, your Mary Marys, and all those different type of artists. On our stage, you can hear those artists. Now, I also can go back and play, like you mentioned earlier, the Mighty Clouds of Joy. Mm-hmm. So at my age, I know what's way back then, and I know what's now. So I learned all what the young people like. So I'm able to really blend in what the young people like, along with our senior citizens, people my age, what they like. So we say we have a station that plays a better variety of gospel music. So that's what makes it work for us.
Cersei Noble, explain why WJCT Public Media is interested in continuing this conversation that is rooted in this docu-series that Henry Louis Gates presented on gospel music.
Well, at WJCT, we view ourselves as the convener for the community. We provide the space, we provide the connections to the documentaries and stuff. So we knew that there was a rich history in Jacksonville, but we wanted to make sure that we had the right people. So my job is to find those right people and bring them in and get their help. In terms of connecting us with everybody and making a rich experience for the community.
And so who are some of those people that you're going to be connecting the community to? Who participates in this event, and what else can people expect when they attend?
Well, it's an amazing event that Ulysses has helped us curate, and he's connected us with those experts. And Freddie will be on the panel. Fredara Hadley will be the host. The host. And we have also artist Lisa McClendon and Bishop Rudolph McKissick Jr. He is also featured in the documentary as well. So we were really excited to have two people come to Jacksonville who are featured in the documentary. So it's really about taking that TV show, that national TV show, and bringing it to the local community and the local connections, and showing people how experiences like watching the program can have an impact in their daily lives here.
And seriously, I just want to interject. We also have a local talent who's incredible and has become a national gospel artist, and that's Meacham Clark, who used to be the former minister of music for Pastor McKissick. He's going to close out the event with a gospel performance with his group Meacham Clark and Co.
And the Bethel Church is well known for its music.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As are a lot of churches in this city. I mean, there's some extraordinary gospel choirs and performers. Is there a lot of overlap? Is there a lot of awareness church to church about the music programs and the quality of the performances at other churches, or do people sort of stay in their lane, as you were saying?
Well, I guess because you got so many types, you got the younger group like the Maverick City music. That's one of the latest trend. You got praise and worship type music. You got the gospel, the Pentecostal sound, and all those goes together and make a real great experience.
Mm-hmm.
I would also sort of to answer that. I think that you have different denominations that stay in their lane,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, you have your Kojic, Church of God in Christ, your Church of God, your Baptist. And so within those community and denominations, those musicians absolutely interface with each other. But there is sometimes a separation
mm-hmm.
between the denominations, because as Freddie said, or Mr. Freddie, as I like to call him, there's a separation of worship styles.
Yes.
And so sometimes if you have a Kojic way of worship, they don't necessarily fully embrace it in their worship service how the Baptists would worship. They respect it,
right.
But everybody wants to continue to worship and celebrate God in their own way.
Right.
And so that's why there's always kind of these lines or sort of these points of boundaries around that.
And there is this program then kind of a way to get a greater appreciation of the different threads of gospel music over the years and in the present?
I would say it's less about an appreciation of all the different threads, or more of an appreciation and awareness of gospel music, period.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was talking to Mr. Freddie about earlier is this town is paramount to I would say, the launching and just the exploration of this music. And I don't think people give Jacksonville, Florida enough credit. And, we can't go into the history now. We don't have that much time. So this event is kind of a point of illumination to say, hey, this art form is great. Here's this documentary that's nationally known. We got some folks coming here, but there are folks from this city that are also part of the national and global conversation of this music. So that's what I would say for Circe and I, how we curate it is really just bringing and highlighting the impact of gospel music.
And that's exactly the point of why we do events like this. And of course, you can't have a gospel music conversation without a performance.
Right. Gotta have church.
And we could have gone on for hours. It was very difficult to narrow down who we were going to speak with and who we would invite to and perform. And so, that's really the point of this, is that we bring it to people's daily lives.
And the event on March 5th, people will see a little of the gospel documentary, and then they'll also hear some performers. There'll be a discussion. If people haven't seen the documentary, how are they able to view it currently?
They can view it right now, anytime, on demand at jaxpbs.tv.
And it's a great show. It really is. It traces an enormous history, and it's not just the music for music. It really is something that was part of protest movements over the years, and it's really significant in the civil rights movement.
Yes.
And so, talk a little bit about how that evolution happened, how it's been a sacred music and a way to worship, but also something that's driven kind of political goals and personal goals.
I would like to say it started back way, even during slavery times, meet me down at the river, stuff like that, where it really was gospel, but it really was giving out messages in the music, and the style just stayed with us. It's something we inherited from generation to generation to generation. So that's why black gospel music, we have such a unique sound. It's just everybody can enjoy it, and it's just that sound. You were talking about it earlier. It's just a particular sound that we have, and it just went way back then.
And what makes someone cross over from just purely gospel into pop or mainstream music? Someone like Aretha, someone like Whitney.
Oh, you know what? We have to, going way back in the day, one of my favorites, one of my idols in singing, before it was Sam Cooke. He started with a group way back then, known as the Soul Stirrers. And then he transitioned to R&B. We have Johnny Taylor, who started out with R&B, started out gospel, and then he transferred to R&B. So, I guess, I know sometimes it's the money. It was the money thing, because how people come and say, hey, you could do this, but that's where their roots are in gospel.
And I would say stylistically, the difference is the lyrical content, because many times, to his point, these different singers, they did not change their vocal approach.
Right.
But you may have had a shift clearly in lyrical content, but then also instrumentation. A big key thing for gospel music is something called the B3 Hammond organ. It's an instrument, and when you hear that Hammond organ, which is actually on some R&B records, but that is very indicative of the church. So I would say that the gospel sound is always there vocally, but when you start surrounding different instrumentation, and then you bring in the marketing and the sort of the beast of the pop world, that's kind of what gets separated. But it's all the same sound.
And I do think those artists that did transition, we all know that they went back and they referenced their roots and they celebrated their roots and shared gospel with a larger audience because of their fame. Aretha and Whitney.
Yeah, Aretha is a huge example. People don't understand that album, and Mr. Freddie, you probably could say more about it than me because you were around. That album, Amazing Grace, with James Cleveland, who Mr. Freddie actually met and had in Jacksonville and hosted. However, that album was at the height of her career, and people don't understand that would be the equivalent of Beyonce, who just made a classical record. It would be the equivalent of her working with, Kirk Franklin right now. Exactly. So we hear and talk about Aretha, but even in the height of her career, she chose to make that gospel record, which speaks to the impact of the music and her father, C.L. Franklin, and his legacy again in her life.
That was a case of just going back to your roots. She grew up in the church, like you said, with her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, and he instilled in her the gospel. So it was like we say, plant a seed. That seed of gospel music was implanted in Aretha. She had the God-given talent, and then like she went right to R&B, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, eventually she came back to gospel and did more gospel for her transition. So, like you go out, like I was telling him earlier, I started out in gospel, but I went and started doing some of the 70s, Temptations, Spinners, so I was known as Dr. Love on the radio. But I went back to my roots, so that's my first love was gospel music.
Cersei, how can people get involved on Tuesday if they want to attend?
Very easily. Go to wjct.org/events and register.
Ulysses Owens Jr., Freddie Rhodes, and Cersei Lenoble, thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.